Good morning. It is March 15th, 2022, and I'm Robert Edward Booth. That's Booth with an E, not Booth, but Boothe. That's like Ronald Milton Reagan, 666, and my birthday is September 23rd, which was an entire theological research project to find out why that was prophetical. The reason is, other than I have not found where that is yet. Of course, I got a million things going on, pardon me. But my birthday is September 23rd because I'm perfect masculine, I'm perfect feminine. I was born on the crest of Virgo and Libra. So, my influences, Jesus used to say, "You are a star." They've got Gnostic writings that he said, you're not going where I'm going anyway. It's your star influences you. It talks about that in books like the Book of Judas or the Book of Mary Magdalene. These books, he will mention things like that, those areas. So I am Heyoka. I'm a super empath. I've seen the Thunderbird 4 or 5 times, probably the 5th. And I'm a psychic sensitive. So I've been following what's going on in Russia and the Ukraine. And I told a young man when I was riding a taxi from medical care the other day that, well, he told me first, he said, Russia said if the West gets involved, they're going to meet a force so powerful they're not going to know what to do. They're not going to comprehend how much power they've met. So I says, this is what I'm more suspicious than any is that this is going to be China. And I told the young man, I said, Russia more than likely knew before they started in this, being that they could influence other alliances to act and cause World War III. They knew before it started that they would have, quote, China. And I told them, China, they can pull a string and get China. Now, China's been laying back, saying we're the peacemaker. Well, that's what happened in the very beginning, and I posted that. I posted an actual news report that in 2014 and 15, Russia sent a humanitarian / military support to the border town of Ukraine and Russia, which Russia and Poland share the Ukraine territory. There is no established Ukraine territory, only recognized by other nations. Some other nations recognize them as. You can't, that's not legitimate. Not when you, unless you want to come over and say, we reckon them now they are, and that's kind of what's going on. There's an independence battle going on, but really that's politically powerful to an innate fear that Russia, the Soviets, will have enough power to dominate the planet, and we don't want. It's not nature. It's not natural for a human to want to have a dictator. Well, that's no fun having somebody tell you your do's and don'ts all day. But one thing I did refer to in my mind, I said, the greats in China, the greats, the emperors, the corporate owners, the people that own 5, 10, and 25 corporations that work closely, a lot of them, with emperors, at least by report, with the emperors of China. Red China was Soviet China for a long, long time, till they took down the Red Wall of China, a lot to do with Christian influence. Perhaps revolt in their nation, but they did take down the Red Wall of China. And Soviet China dictatorship ended for the population in China. But I looked at it and I says, these people became great. Now China's probably number 1 in the world as far as world powers. They predict some years ago that in 40 years, the Chinese military will dominate the planet Earth. So I'm watching this unfold and knowing that politically that Russia could influence a World War III. And with the size of the Ukraine territory, even though Poland and Russia share that territory, them being allowed privilege to govern themselves, well, that's a lot like not being a dictator over you. you've got some room to operate. So if you'll look at the reports that I did on 3oaks1.com, you will, numeral one, of course, you will see that in 2014 and 15, the one who took the swing on anybody was the Ukrainian government, where the Russians went there as a motherland to that territory, who established the sharing of that territory with Poland as a motherland to that territory, went in regards to an independence battle going on in Donbass. And went there just like in a football game. I often compare it to, like you might see a rivalry, at school, a rivalry. And the little guy would be the Donbass, and the big guy would be the Ukraine, telling them, no, you're not going to govern yourself. We're your government. And well, the Russians went there just like you had some friends that were big enough to stand up for you, and they went there in a humanitarian / military support. Well, that's what happens at the ball game or what have you. Your friends who are mighty enough to stop the bigger guy, the Ukraine, from harming you, were there just humanitarian / military support. Like, hear him out, let him talk, let him protest you, whatever. He's got grounds. Okay, so they're there, and who took the swing? Who took the swing? By report, the Ukrainian government didn't swing on Donbass first, swung a fist shot at Russia, militarily, an act of war against Russia. Yeah. A peace treaty or a ceasefire agreement was signed, and both sides broke that. I'm not sure what year, maybe 2017. I'm not sure. I don't keep all that on top of my head, right? On top of your head, right? So the ceasefire was broken between Russia and the Ukraine, both sides being found guilty of breaking the ceasefire treaty. So originally, the numbskull that swung first was the Ukraine, offering dominance to Donbass, who had both ethnic groups speaking Ukrainian language, Russian language, more of the Ukrainian language by report. That's fine. Russia's still the motherland of that entire territory, coupled with Poland, two more superpower in the situation. Nations, official nations, Ukraine not being so, governing that situation. Being there like your buddies, don't hit him. He's just trying to say his political part in this. He wants to protest you. So the first act of war really came from the Ukraine, and that's completely being covered up by the media. They're not bringing that back up. We call it on the street, some of us do, the Martian mind melt. I mean, if you'll wait a little while there, forget that happened. And then you can politically pursue a rallying of emotion where your fears of a world war can be used to rally the masses, where your sympathy for the little guy getting the snot beat out of him, and it's sad. Anytime you go to war, it's sad. It's really sad that they're attacking civilians in hospitals and children's hospitals. I don't like that, but it's going on. And when they're doing that, I could have told you, and I did. I told that taxi driver, I said, they got a string they can pull, China. Because the leaders that's in them powerful corporations and the emperors know that what made them great was this dictator type standing over you, making you do what your dictator is telling you to do. It's like having a dad that you revolt against in a household who's telling you you need to do that as your leader. You see? So they know that what made China now above America and going to be in 40 years over the world, they say, and population, they outnumber entire continents. I posted that on 3oaks1.com. What continents exactly? I don't know. Australia, Europe, I don't know. United States, North America. Yeah. 4 big continents. They completely outnumber the continents, not the nations, the continents. And so I was like, they're going to pull a string and China's going to be able to be an ally. And they did. They did. Now China's in it. China, that every product in the United States practically says on the back of the box, made in China. Bought your government out, government bailout. Oh, I'm just buku cash. I don't know the exact figure to China alone, okay? 29 trillion in debt. It's not pretty. So you let Joe Biden, whose son was criminally charged in that Kyiv or whatever pronunciation you do of that area that they're trying to put on the table, you need to officially document that we run that area Russia wants. That's over Poland and anybody, and we'll stop. They won't sign that. And there's a few other things in there. I'm sure I saw them and heard them talking about it. But the point being, you're letting them rally off of not only your innate fear, which is part of your energy. You know how they talk about the brain. The human brain's only been used a certain percentage of it. Well, they know that's an innate energy in you, and they're drawing from that you don't really want to see this world have biological warfare, nuclear plants explode, and all that danger. You don't want that. So they're rallying off of that. And then they're also rallying off, this little guy is getting the snot beat out of him, just like Donbass was going to have done to them by the Ukrainians had the Russians not shown up in this humanitarian / military support for a protest. Just like if you had friends that you could call, they did, and Russia came, and there was military there, you wouldn't go there with a Ukrainian military available, not prepared to defend yourself. So the first swing came from the Ukraine. A comedian president took a swing on Russia and getting the crap kicked out of him. And now not only your fears for world safety are being used to rally masses of people and governments in support for Joe Biden, and the politics going, well, obviously with a superpower like Russia potentially bringing world power to another superpower like China or allying with them, take some power from them by taking that entire, you've seen the size of it, Ukrainian territory, and all those people and what military they've developed as a people, even though they're not official, to have that in your pocket, so to speak, the string that you can pull, right next door. You don't have to pay for the fuel. You don't have to hustle your men over there back and forth. You use theirs plus whatever you can get there. You have to refuel or replenish. You've got them going, so and then they can't sell what resources are available in the Ukraine if you give them independence. So really politically, that's what I see going on. Just like Donbass wanted their independence, Ukraine wants their independence. They're covering it all up by a military tough people like the ones that was there to support Donbass did get a dumb punch thrown on them, and then stomped the ass, excuse my terminology, of the Ukrainians for doing it. Now you're being told that we should feel sorry for this comedian president who raised his hand to a very powerful nation who really was his authority anyway. Outside of Poland, who's not even actively involved other than giving airplanes. That ain't good. They're actively involved. I'm going to tell you right now, again, that veil from the top to the bottom, from the bottom to the top that the evangelist says Jesus opened up, look behind the veil. What's really going on? What's really going on? Well, that's what I'm telling you. I've been telling you that all along. And that's what's going to save me. I'm 666. I'm Robert Edward Booth, and I was born September 23rd. I'm Heyoka, a super empath. And what I went through when I was 19 or 22 years old, roughly that time frame, I told you, I'm second coming of Jesus. I'm the Messiah. And I've shown it. I've got all my paperwork. I've got more Merovingian king bloodline in me, a French king bloodline. They came out of Germany originally, the Germanic tribes. And I've got 2 or 3 on my mother's side, Germanic tribal kings. Yeah, I'm looking at 10, 12, 14 kings. Grandfather realm, King Henry III, King Edward I, William the Conqueror, Those are all grandfather realms to me. That's just quickie. I just looked it up and said, these are grandfathers. Wow. So I go back to the Merovee, to, Cheldric and Pepin the Short, right before the Carolingian king started, who was also the same bloodline, but somehow that I haven't defined. They changed it when the Roman Catholic Church took down the Merovingian kings upon what another deception has been given is that Constantine signed over privilege to the church, the Catholic Church, to take down kings and set up kings. And Nicholas de Vere in The Dragon Legacy, you can find it on Amazon, Amazon.com. You can find the books in Kindle bookstore, The Dragon Legacy. He describes exactly that this has to be a forgery because there's things in there that history shows did not exist during that time frame in the documents that gave them that power, and they took down the Merovingian kings. And the Knights Templars have prophecies that a man will come, a king, myself, and 666 will rule the planet Earth and restore the Merovingian throne. I'm learning French now, thank you. Trying to. I point out a lot of hidden facts, things that there are truths and there are hidden truths, these mysteries like Jesus taught. I'm a mystic. I've had experiences with the divine. And look, I mean to serve the all, the end game. I want to do the best for everybody. That ain't always possible. Wars will happen. Good and bad things are inevitable. Ups and downs. That's part of the toils that life must have. The divine consciousness, if you would, the sovereign one, God, has to have that going on, and the wisdom that created everything uses everything to create more power for itself. So the toils, like friction, heat energy, gets created in all the toils. So this is going to go on. And I'm sorry that there's a war. I really hate it. Children's hospitals, please stop attacking the children's hospitals. I don't really blame you for attacking civilians. Not that much. It's a war crime. But when you got China behind you, which I knew, attack who you feel like. Don't attack me. I took your side and I saw who swung first. I saw what you're doing according to reports. The media being deceiving. I still see that it's your territory. I see that it's your nation. I see that there's an independence thing going on politically. I see that there's resources there to be taken. I see that there's militaries there to be gained. I see Joe Biden's son caught in a crime there with a bag of money. I took the side of what's right. I took the side of what's right. And I know what made those Chinamen great that you could pull a string on. Discipline. And the appreciation for discipline. And having a dictator, when you can't make the right decisions, tell you the right decisions like your daddy. And that's why I'm a yoke. I'm your mother and your daddy. I can sympathize, but I also know if I give you an inch, you will take a mile. And you will revolt. Much like letting Ukraine have their own government and form their own military. I want you to be strong. You're my territory. You're my child. I want you to be strong. Don't raise your hand to me. I made you and I will take you out. That's what my dad used to say. I made you and I will take you out. With the power, where the boy in the taxi told me, he said, Russia says you're going to meet a force that you're not going to be able to reckon with. I could have told you, and I did. I call that boy right now if he's still alive, and he'll tell you. A young man, okay, sorry, boy. He probably wouldn't mind. He's a hippie like me. He knows what I said. With the kind of power they're going to be able to pull, if the Western world steps in, they're going to meet more force than they want to reckon with. Well, I could have told you, and I did. They got it where they can pull a string and have China. Wouldn't have went there to start with knowing that they were going to be recognized, powerful enough to bring World War III. Those civilians have power to collectively serve military purposes. In love and war, there really ain't no rules. That's what they say. It's an overstatement. It's profound. There still needs to be a place that you draw the line, all right? Please stop attacking the children's hospitals. The regular hospitals, bad enough, all right? They're going to get out of there and be adults, and they're going to contribute, all right? The children's hospitals, please stop. That's my beckoning. Or you're going to meet a force that you don't want to reckon with. I wish you peace and peace profound. And you shouldn't have swung on Russia for a humanitarian military effort. You should not have swung on Russia. And stop having comedian presidents and stuff. I understand you can have multifacets. I understand you can be a multifaceted personality. But there ain't nothing like the real thing. Somebody who loves you like your mother, and somebody who will dictate to you like your father. I'm Ayoka. I'm 666. See you at 3oaksnumeral1.com. And let's see what's really going on. Dragon means one who sees. Come and see. Have a peaceful day. Peace and peace profound.